What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. The Sunshine Cup is here in the Go Battle League, and with it comes a meta where a lot of old Pokemon can come back into the fray. One of those old Pokemon that I'm a big fan of is Shadow Swampert. Now, while it did receive a pacing nerf when Mudshot ended up becoming 8 energy rather than 9 per fast move, it's still a very strong Pokemon, and it's still pretty spammy here, and in a meta like this, it can really start to sweep. Let's get into the battles and see what this Pokemon can do. Let's get right on into it. Game number 1, we're going to see Furret as our lead into a Flygon, a pretty good lead matchup here, but we have to keep in mind Flygon is very offensive, Dragon Tail is going to hurt, but Sucker Punch as well is shredding through the HP of this Pokemon. They go for an instant Dragon Claw on alignment, I get a full Sucker Punch through, our opponent goes for that Dragon Claw, and now in comes a Swift here, but not before I overfarm, just in case they do let this Pokemon go down. Now, Flygon is pretty squishy here. Swift definitely will get a knockout. Our opponent does let it go down, and what do we see come in? It's going to be their own Talonflame. Now, at this point, I could swap out if I wanted to, but down shields, it's not like Swampert or Talonflame really wants to be in this matchup, so what I'm going to try to do is go for 2 Swifts here if I can, and try our best to get a shield back from them. In comes Swift number 2, our opponent likely will shield this up unless they want to just completely rely on their third Pokemon. No, in comes that shield, and in comes our Talonflame. As long as this is not a Brave Bird, it's not going to one-shot us here, we can no-shield the fly, maybe even go for a full Incinerate down. It depends on what's in the backline, but I feel like the energy on Talonflame is almost always going to go somewhere. I'm going to shield this move up and see what they're going to have. In comes another fly. They won't reach another one just yet. Our opponent does bring in a Shadow Swampert of their own. We have a fly plus a Brave Bird loaded. I'm going to go for the bait and then go for the nuke depending on where the shields are going to go. This is going to be good for us. In comes that first shield on the fly. In comes our Brave Bird on the next one. And man, it's looking like we might not even need our Swampert in this game. Down goes their Swampert. Incinerate going to knock out this Talonflame. And we're able to take the win with only 2 Pokemon used. GG to our opponent. Next game, Furret into Shadow Abomasnow. Our Swampert is very happy not to be here, but our Talonflame in the backline is looking to be a little bit hard countered. I would assume if you're leading Abomasnow, you likely have water types in the back, which might make it a bit tricky to use that Pokemon. Let's see what our opponent's going to do. Swift comes through, gets a shield here from our opponent. Now, they could go for Energy Ball, which would do quite a bit of damage, or maybe they're going to go for back-to-back Weather Ball, which will knock us out if they do land them both. In comes that Weather Ball. In comes the second one back-to-back here, as we were thinking. And while I will get knocked out, we can farm down with our Talonflame. In this meta, even though Talonflame likely will face some opposition in the backline, we have to keep in mind that it's still going to at least have a lot of play with his shield advantage, and look at that, a Gligar as a safe swap. They don't let us farm him down, which I guess is a smart play, because a lot of energy on Talonflame could have just started landing Brave Birds against something in the backline. Aerial Ace comes through, and comes another Aerial Ace from them, though. I want to go for a Brave Bird. Wow, they actually let us get to this attack as well before throwing their next Aerial Ace. Brave Bird going to come through, knock out the Gligar. Can't really bring in that Abomasnow, and no, actually they go into a Quagsire instead. So at this point, they don't really have a way to farm us down here with this Pokemon. I'm going to swap out Clear our debuff. What is this? Okay, never mind. They do have a way to farm us down. That is a Water Gun Quagsire. Insane pick here. I guess a little bit better fast move pressure, a little bit worse pacing. I think the last time Sunshine Cup was here, you actually did see a couple of those. Went for a Sludge just in case a catch would happen. At this point, it's Shadow into Shadow. Sludge would knock out this Quagsire either way. Another Aqua Tail comes through from our opponent, and now another Sludge from our Swampert, just in case, once again, a catch does end up happening. Sludge coming through knocks out the Quagsire, and no matter what, we still have a Talonflame as well as a Swampert with Sludge ready to go here in just a second. We can take the win. GG to our opponent. Next game, Furret up against an Abomasnow. We've seen this lead in the last game, but it was the Shadow. How is the non-Shadow going to play out here? There's a chance to throw an Icy Wind instead of Weather Ball, which means that if they do want to throw a move, I want to make sure I throw my move first, just to make sure no debuff is going to end up happening here. Swift comes through, gets him about below half HP, and comes a Charge Attack after 6. That's going to be an Icy Wind, almost certainly. Yep, that's exactly what we see here, but we can survive that move. Go for another Swift in just a second. I have seen some Furrets running Brick Break instead of Trailblaze, although I really like the Trailblaze coverage for the water types in this meta. Swift does draw their shield anyway, so who needs Trailblaze at this point? In comes the Shadow Quagsire as a safe swap. Our opponent not realizing that I am going to be able to get another Trailblaze off here, likely will draw a shield from this move. Trailblaze comes through, gets that final shield here from our opponent, and up 2 shield. Shadow Swampert is in a very good spot. I'm going to shield up an Aqua Tail here. I know that they might have Earthquake, I guess. I mean, it's probably not that likely, but they're at energy where it could have been, so I'll no shield the next one, just to make sure at this point we still have a shield in case we need it against that Abomasnow. Aqua Tail comes through, puts us down into the yellow. We'll overfarm just a little bit more here to make sure if that Abomasnow does come back in, that we can land a Sludge into them. In comes our Hydro Cannon. Down goes the Quagsire. What are we going to see brought in here? Of course, it's going to be that Swampert, or rather the Abomasnow into our Swampert. We can go for the Sludge against them, and we'll see what their final Pokemon is. There's a good chance we can land a move against them, whatever it might be. Okay, well, I guess not that. Too much fast pressure for our Swampert to deal with, but a shield advantage as well as just having such a healthy Talonflame here will allow us to reach a Brave Bird against this Flygon, and we should be able to win this game. Brave Bird knocks out the Flygon. We're able to take the win. GG there to our opponent. Next game, Furret up against a Shadow Kanto Marowak. Whole team has play into ground-type Pokemon. Honestly, I think this is probably our second best matchup we could be in against this Pokemon. Our Swampert, while it is a water type, would just get completely farmed down in the 2-shield matchup, so it's probably a good thing that we get to avoid it there. And our Talonflame resists the ground type damage, which is why that would be a little bit better. But we can go for baits here with Swift, or at the very least, maybe draw a shield here with the second Swift if they do end up calling this. No, they do shield that first move here. Our opponent trying to farm us down, they can't quite do it. Trailblaze comes through, likely getting either the second shield or nearly a knockout against this Pokemon. They let it go. We knock them out. In comes a second ground type Pokemon. Talonflame gonna absorb all of the energy here, try to farm down. I guess they don't want any part of it, and we're able to take the win. GG once again to our opponent. Next game, Furret into Furret action here. I was talking about Brick Break, rather, a little bit earlier on in this video. I think Brick Break in the mirror could be a little bit helpful, but the thing is, it's not even that bad just with straight Swift. If they have Brick Break, I guess we'll see. If they don't have it, then I guess also we'll just see how neutral this mirror matchup is going to be. In comes their attack. What move will they throw? It's a Swift of their own, so likely that means they're on the same moveset as us here. Sucker Punch, putting them down into range with this next Swift could come close to knocking out, but I'm going to go for the undercharge here. I know that I want to get an energy lead if I can on our Shadow Swampert. No shield this move, swap to our own Swampert when we can here. Our opponent is going to actually swap in at the same time, but because I was able to get a 0-turn swap, they had to do the 1-turn swap there. We're able to get that energy lead. Winning CMP or just having that energy advantage is going to make it so you can win the 2-shield matchup. Basically guaranteed here. Hydro Cannon comes through. I do not win CMP. Good to know from our opponent here. They threw right when I got my next attack, but they are still 1 away from their final. I know that our lose condition this game is going to be if they catch a move. If they ever catch a move from my Swampert on their Furret, then likely this Swampert just sweeps us. Our Talonflame does not want to take a move. I'm likely going to have to wait a turn if I want any chance to win this match. In comes a Hydro Cannon. Down goes our final shield against this Pokemon. And we're going to see, yep, there's that catch attempt. Now we can just farm them all the way down, have a ton of energy on our Swampert. Maybe swap out if we need to, but no, in comes our own Swampert once again. We are just a single Mudshot away from the next move, which means either a Sludge or a Hydro Cannon going to land against something in the backline. Looks like it's going to be a Gligar. This Pokemon does not want to take a Hydro Cannon. If it's a Shadow, this is going to be devastating. Even a non-Shadow, though, it's going to be an Incinerate downrange. Yeah, just a single Incinerate into the Shadow Gligar is all it takes, and we can win that match. Next game, Furret into a Shadow Flygon. I think we saw this a little bit earlier today. Sucker Punch damage does add up quite a bit, and we do outpace to the Swifts, although because Flygon does have a lot of damage, we're not going to be very healthy coming out of this matchup either, so if they do have some Pokemon in the backline weak to our Furret, then it's probably good for them that they're getting rid of it now. They end up going for a Dragon Claw, Chip, and Dip. I have 2 Swifts ready to go against this Furret. One to throw into this Pokemon, maybe one to save for the backline here. Talonflame going to try its best here to absorb the energy, but honestly, I don't have a great answer to Furret's Safe Swap on this team, so this is a little bit awkward. In fact, there's a chance they're almost at back-to-back moves here. I might have to throw in bad timing if I want to get my move off before they're able to get to a second Swift, which is exactly what we end up doing. Fly coming through, likely drawing a shield here from our opponent. They do end up shielding the attack, and in comes their next move. Swift will knock us out from this range. I hope I can farm them down, but honestly, there's a chance they get to yet another Swift here. Furret is such a crazy Pokemon in this meta. Basically, any meta that used to be a Vigoroth meta has now turned into a Furret meta. It's kind of crazy to see. Sucker Punch plus Swift is just such a combination. All right, in comes the farm down against their Furret. We have a lot of energy. Do we see the Flygon? Do we see the final Pokemon? What is this? Shadow Blaziken with counter. That is not what I want to see. Unfortunately, Swift is going to come through, does not draw the shield. Swift number 2. If I get the shield here, maybe there's a chance we can win this game. Our opponent might no-shield, though, thinking that I might have a counter to this in the back line. Yeah, they no-shield at this point. They're going to sweep with their Flygon. GG there to them. Next game is going to be Furret into a Macargo. All right, our Talonflame really wants to avoid this Pokemon if we can here. Shadow Swampert, though, is kind of scared to see this Pokemon here, because if there is a Pokemon that weak to both ground and water type damage in the lead, likely grass types will be lurking in the back. Trailblaze comes through, puts them down to about half HP, and I'm going to no-shield hoping they went for a Rock Tomb. If they went for Overheat, that's going to one-shot us here, but it will lower their stats. And yeah, I guess they do go for the Overheat, man. And then they come in with the Shadow Swampert here. Unfortunately for us, we end up 1 turn lagging. We should have the energy lead here. Unfortunately, we do not, because the opponent got the 0-turn swap, and since they actually win CMP, that's really going to matter here. It means that now the only chance I have any play is by going for the no-shield in this Hydro Cannon, getting that shield advantage with our Swampert, and then just investing everything in our Talonflame. Now, this might sound like a weird play, saying there is still a Fire and Rock-type Pokemon in the backline. How is Talonflame ever going to deal with that? But we do have to keep in mind they're chipped down quite a bit here, and I would assume there is a Grass-type in the back, so Swampert, while it was not able to do too much this game, maybe just that one shield advantage is all it's going to take to win us this match. In comes their next charge move here. Hydro Cannon going to knock us out if I don't shield. Not really a choice to be had here. I do have to throw this move. our opponent is going to swap out to the Macargo. I need to overfarm as much as possible, and I have to hope that this is range where a Brave Bird can knock out. In comes the Brave Bird. Our opponent does have no shields remaining. I guess I should say they don't have any shields remaining whatsoever, so we're able to get the knockout here. What is going to come in? I'm one Incinerate away from a Fly, I believe, and it's actually going to be a Chestnut which comes in here. We need to overfarm as much as possible, so that way we are just one Incinerate away from the next Fly. That way, we don't take a superpower here, but we can also outpace the Swampert to their next Hydro Cannon. In comes the Fly, down goes the Swampert, and a complete end-game sweep from our Talonflame, knocking out the water, the fire, and the grass. GG there to our opponent. Next game, Furret up against a Hippowdon, a Shadow Hippowdon in the lead. What is a fast move from our opponent here? I guess we won't find out just yet. A crazy save swap, a Shadow Magmortar, a Pokemon I don't see too often in the Go Battle League in general. I don't know if it's that good in this meta. I guess Karate Chop, one of the few Pokemon with fighting type damage here. They do end up doing Fire Punch. That does a decent amount of damage despite being resisted, so I'll throw a Hydro Cannon myself, knock them out, or draw their shield. Looks like they will let it go. And if that Hippo comes back in, I should reach a Hydro Cannon against them, likely getting a shield back. It is Ice Fang from the looks of it here, so they will be able to farm us down pretty easily. But the thing is, while they will farm us down, they will have to invest that shield, and now they have some energy, but not enough to reach a Scorching Sands. This is still pretty favorable here for our Furret. I can come in with Furret, go for the Trailblaze, maybe even the Swift after the Sucker Punch damage, and that was a pretty early throw by our opponent. Like, probably just a Weather Ball coming through. No shield the attack. Our opponent now swaps into a Rollout Miltank, and this is actually going to make things a little bit tricky. Miltank with Rollout is obviously pretty spammy, and that Rock-type damage into Talonflame is not what I want to see here. I'm going to ramp up my attack stat with that Trailblaze, try to whittle down this Pokemon if I can with our Furret, but there is a lot of Rock-type damage across the board. This thing could also have Thunderbolt, so I want to take this thing out as quickly as possible, but that Hippowdon, if they can reach a couple Weather Balls against our Talonflame, that could be kind of bad for us. In comes their next charge attack, likely a Body Slam being thrown. I'm going to no-shield the attack here. Our opponent does Body Slam. I'm going to swap out, get the energy lead that I need to outpace the Hippowdon, and we'll see what they're going to do. If they are just 10 Ice Fangs away from the move here, they can get a CMP against us, but if they're anything less from the back-to-back Weather Balls after 10 Ice Fangs, then we should be able to win this game. We have the back-to-back loaded right now. In comes Fly number 1. Our opponent, they don't throw a fast move. Was that a CMP? It might just be here. If that was, then that's game over. No, they just top-left it instead, which is a much better situation to be in. GG there to them. Next game, Shadow Flygon. Man, I guess a very common Pokemon in this meta. It makes sense. There's not a lot of Dragon resists, right? This Pokemon is pretty neutral against a lot of things, but also in these actual neutral matchups where you're taking a lot of fast food pressure, Flygon is not that bulky. It's going to get shredded through by these Sucker Punches. I guess I'm one to talk. My Furret's also just about as low as this Pokemon, so it is still kind of awkward for us. They go for the Scorching Sands, interestingly enough, and then they come in with a Furret. Once again, I don't have a great counter to this save swap, so I'm going to come in Talonflame here, knowing at least they can't go for Trailblaze into us, and this Fly will likely draw a shield. We have energy left over on our Furret. They actually let that move go, which is kind of interesting. That was a CMP. They would have gone for a full Incinerate Sneak. I wish I would have let that fast move go. All right, whatever. At this point, they are still forced to throw energy into us to knock us out. Maybe I can farm down here with our Furret before they reach another Swift. If I can, we're in a pretty good spot. If they do reach another move, though, that could be a little bit uncomfortable. We get that farm down. What do we see come in? It's going to be that Flygon once again here. We have the Swift ready to go. Our opponent likely has to shield if they don't want to get completely knocked out by this move. They do let it go. In comes a Talonflame, and rather than throwing my energy, I know I can't give this Pokemon any bit of energy lead. Talonflame and Swampert have very similar attack stats, so in this meta, I want to make sure that I can just outpace rather than risking a CMP here. The quicker I swap out, the better for me. And now, instead of even letting them get to back-to-back flies, we can outpace them here to 2 Hydro Cannons, knock out this Talonflame, and take the win here, just barely with Swampert outpacing in the backline. GG to our opponent. Next game, Furret into the Gligar. Pretty neutral lead matchup here. Happy to avoid this on our Swampert, at least when we be down energy into it. But no, they don't even stay in that matchup. They come in with a Furret here. We're going to stay in for just a second, saying both Swampert and Talonflame still have a lot of play into that Gligar in the backline. Swift number 1 being thrown puts them deep into the yellow. Swift number 1 from our opponent likely being thrown, but maybe they're on Brick Break. Although if they were, I would have expected it just a little bit sooner. Yeah, just a Swift coming through. We can go for the Swift of our own once again and hope that this is enough to knock out. I think that might have been a CMP as well. Our opponent going for the no shield against that Swift there, gets knocked out, and Gligar comes back in. Honestly, a little bit of an interesting play by our opponent right now. I think we're in a decent spot to win this game, because what we can do here is go for the Swift against them, try our best to get to the second move before getting Fury Cutter down. They are forced to throw a move before my next Swift, which means at this point, this Gligar does not have a lot left in the bank. In comes the Aerial Ace. They do end up knocking us out here, but A Swampert in the backline is not what I wanted to see. When our Furret goes down, if we don't have a shield advantage or anything, and they're able to outpace us to charge moves, this Pokemon is probably the worst thing that I could see here in the entire meta. Well, we have a lot of play into that Gligar. This Swampert at this point is going to be a menace. I have to no-shield. I know at this point my only chance of winning this game is by investing in my Swampert and trying to knock out everything with Hydro Cannons. At least I will be able to shield and outpace to the next Hydro Cannon here, so I won't take a Hydro Cannon from the Swampert as long as I'm careful, but that Gligar still does have a bit of energy, and I need to land a full-on Hydro Cannon to knock them out. Mudshot Fast Food Pressure will never knock out a Gligar, so this is going to be tricky. Do they have enough HP and enough energy on that Gligar remaining to win them this game? In comes our next charge attack here. Hydro Cannon does end up drawing our shield. In comes our Hydro Cannon of our own. This will knock him out, but that Gligar, once again, that's the wild card. Will it be able to knock us out, or will it just reach an Aerial Ace? Our opponent throws a move very early on, which means almost certainly either they're at back-to-back Aerial Ace, or maybe they're just at one dig. They do go for the dig, which nearly knocks us out, and Fury Cutters will finish us off right before the next Hydro Cannon. Unfortunately, not able to take that win, but GG to our opponent. Very well played. Hippowdon in the next game, a Pokemon that I saw a little bit earlier today. I guess probably targeting those Flygons, right? As well as having that Weather Ball Rock, a pretty spammy move. We're going to bait a Swift here. Maybe your opponent respects the move, maybe they don't. Looks like we do draw that shield. And at this point, was that even enough energy? Maybe it was for a Scorching Sands, but I doubt they even throw the move right now. They need to bait to try to get any sort of energy back. We call the bait, we get to another Swift, so at this point, Furret is absolutely destroying this Shadow Hippowdon. Swift comes through, nearly knocks him out, and we can try to Sucker Punch down, actually, get the full farm down against them, meaning that we win Switch and Shield advantage. In comes a Swampert in the backline, which is a little bit worrisome, saying that we are down energy, but we do still have the Shield advantage, which is pretty nice to see. In comes a move here from the Swampert. Hydro Cannon gonna come through and draw our shield. At this point, I think since they're on the non-Shadow Swampert, one Hydro Cannon is not gonna be quite enough to knock them out, but I'm hoping once this Pokemon is out of the way, as well as that Hippowdon, that hopefully my Talonflame will have more play in the backline. They do survive, unfortunately, on 1 HP. I'm willing to shield this move up, though. Energy on Swampert is always a good thing, but not when there's a Cradilly in the backline. This is probably the worst Pokemon that I could see here. Grass Knot one-shots my Swampert, Rock Tomb one-shots my Talonflame. The only chance I have to win this is by making a catch. We get to back-to-back Hydro Cannons here, which will strip them down quite a bit, but I absolutely need to catch a Grass Knot if I want any chance to win this game. Our Talonflame will never outpace this Pokemon, but they throw after 2. I was going to swap after 3, so unfortunately for us here, they make the right call. They end up knocking out our Swampert, and now they can outpace us to our Rock Tomb. Cradilly just a little bit too annoying there in the backline. Well played to them. Next game, Furret into Shadow Swampert. We know this Pokemon is such a menace here in this meta. My backline doesn't want to deal with this, so if I can either get a shield advantage from them or trip them down with Swift and Sucker Punch damage, then I'll take anything that I can get. In comes a Hydro Cannon. It does do a decent chunk of damage to our Furret here. If we get a shield, honestly, well, either way, I think swapping to our Shadow Swampert could be a good idea. Yeah, getting that shield here, we'll get the energy lead if we can with our own Shadow Swampert, but they swapped at the same exact time into their own Furret. Now, this isn't the worst case scenario. That Swampert is completely energy dry at this point. They're down a shield this game too, and things have been chipped down. I've got this Furret deep into the yellow. I can no-shield this Swift myself, survive the attack. And honestly, I kind of want to get knocked out here. I'm not going to throw my Hydro Cannon immediately, but our opponent didn't throw the Swift immediately either, which is honestly so awkward. I think they CMP'd us here. I would have really preferred just getting knocked out so I could have farmed them down with our Talonflame, get a huge energy lead with that Talon would have been really nice. But either way, we might still have some play in this match, where I still have my shield advantage. They don't have any sort of energy, at least not before they came into this matchup, so we should be able to still outpace to these flies and hope that our Talonflame in the backline is still going to be a very strong Pokemon. With that said, since Talonflame is using a 5-turn fast move, it's a little bit clunky here. I have to throw on alignment sometimes if I want to get my move off right before the next Hydro Cannon. Once again, I'll have to throw on alignment if I want to knock them out. In comes the Hydro Cannon here. We do shield the move up. In comes our Fly against them, but they catch on a Talonflame. This is going to be an interesting endgame here. I think I might be able to reach another Fly. If I can win CMP, or maybe if they don't reach the move here in just a second, I should be able to knock them out. Looks like they did not get an Incinerate on that sneak in, which is good for us. We don't even have to worry about CMP. Down goes the Talon, but at this point, I have no energy for this Swampert. They should be able to do 4 and throw the Hydro Cannon. It's going to come down to fast move pressure. Are they at another Hydro Cannon, or will they reach one before Sucker Punch damage will knock them out? I come in with our Furret here, 2 Sucker Punches, KOs the Shadow Swampert, and we are barely able to clinch the win. GG there to our opponent. Next game, Shadow Golurk in the lead. A fantastic lead matchup for a Sucker Punch user, and in the backline is going to be a Talonflame safe swap. This Pokemon is not going to want to take a Hydro Cannon here, likely going to get some shields down. I would assume they're going to play out the 2-shield matchup to try to get all the shields down that they can to potentially land a dynamic punch into our Furt later on. If they do try to do that, though, honestly, I might just no-shield my Swampert on the second attack. Just getting 2 shields to 1 advantage should make it so I'm in a decent spot where I'm able to sweep with my Talonflame. We're pretty good into Golurk no matter what with our team, so I'm not that worried. I guess I don't even play that out. They just play out the 1-shield matchup here, which means they're going to farm us down with Golurk, but not before I do reach a Hydro Cannon, which should be enough to draw the shield from this Pokemon. This move would easily one-shot a Shadow Golurk. They do shield the attack up, and honestly, there's not a lot of reason to give this thing any extra energy. I'm going to go into our Furt and see what they have in the backline. Big Dynamic Punch shield here. That's all of the energy down the drain for that Golurk, which means now Talon should be able to close out this endgame here pretty easily in the backline, especially because we see a Furt from our opponent. Go for the Trailblaze to ramp up our attack stat. Knowing that we had such a big energy lead at this point, we might as well go for the move that's going to guarantee a 2-shot with our charge attacks. Interestingly enough, they go for a Trailblaze 2, potentially thinking they would not get to 2 Swifts here in this matchup. They might have, though. I think they might have had a chance. With that said, Swift is going to knock them out anyway. We're boosted for it. We have Talon in the backline if we need it, but Sucker Punch is ripping through the Ghost type's HP. We farm them down, and we take the win here in that game. GG there to our opponent. So yeah, the Sunshine Cup here, a very interesting meta. I love using Shadow Swampert. It's a Pokemon that has a lot of sweeping potential. As long as you're not fighting against like raw grass type Pokemon that farm you down with Razor Leaf or Vine Whip, this Pokemon has a lot of play. And with Sludge, a new addition to its moveset here in this season, it's able to have a decent amount of flexible play as well against a lot of the meta. The only problem is if you're not up energy, it can be a little bit shield hungry and it can be a little bit bad when you're having to no shield moves because it's so squishy. But in general, it's a very good sweeper and a Pokemon that I'm very happy is good once again. All right, well, thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.